Welcome, everyone. This is your host, Kareen Mills. Welcome to Mother Hustler podcast. We are graced today by this amazing woman, Amanda Hartz, all the way in Kalispell, Montana. Hey, Amanda.
Hi, how are you?
I am doing wonderful. Thank you so much for being here and your willingness to share your
Yeah, thank you
amazing
for having me.
story. It's going to be exciting.
Yeah.
So let's see. Give me just a minute.
Okay.
All right. So can you hear me good?
Yes.
Perfect. So let the world know who Amanda Hartz is, because I know a little bit about your background, right? Because we kind of, of course, I always stalk my guests' social media and look them through. Of course, you're here today because you are a mother hustler, you're a mom. Tell us about your journey. You can start anywhere in your journey and let us know the challenges. I love listening to the story behind each and every woman's glory, because I think that entrepreneurship and business ownership is such an amazing challenge. But looking at online resources and online following other people, what I don't like about sometimes when people post is they just post the fun things that they're doing. And I think that it really needs to be communicated properly that it is challenging. And
Yeah.
yeah, so I'll just let you take over, start anywhere you want, and then I'll take notes and I'll ask you some questions.
Awesome. So I guess we'll just start with like my work history because that happened before the kids. Um, I started working really hard actually as a teenager. I was just motivated from there. And then my first real career move, I got into the insurance industry.
Mhm.
I sold insurance for a while. I became a broker. I was making six figures when I was 18, 19 doing that. And the challenge with that came up. I was so good at my job and I was so focused on what I was doing that I didn't realize how unhappy I was until it was like really bad because I was bringing in all the money. I bought my dream car. I bought a house at 19.
Wow.
I was working my butt off. But at the end of the day, I realized it had been a couple months consistently that every day when I drive home, I was crying because I hated it.
Wow.
Um, so I learned, fortunately, at a really young age that money is not the answer to happiness at all.
Mhm.
So I've spent a lot of time over the years since then just going through these random journeys in my personal life, the business life, and I've finally got to a place. My new career now, my main one, I have a
Mhm.
couple different businesses, but my main one is I have a salon here in town where I live, and I love it. So I've been a
Wow.
manicurist now for 8 years, and the last 2 years or 2 years ago, I opened my own shop, and that's like it's such a huge passion of mine. Um, it's not making millions, but I'm so incredibly happy. I can come to work all day. I usually work 12 hours like on Tuesdays.
Mhm.
And I leave happy, energized, grateful. I'm so
Mhm.
thankful for all my clients and everything that they bring into my salon and just the time that we have together. And it's just
Mhm.
such an amazing thing compared to the corporate life of selling something for someone else and just killing yourself over it.
Yeah.
So, um,
Um, wow. You started at a young age and you were an insurance broker. Did you own your own practice? Is that
I
what you were doing?
I did not. No, I worked for a company. It was back then. It was called Eastwood Insurance, and then it got
Mm.
bought out by Nationwide.
Mm.
So I worked for them, and I made some huge accomplishments when I was 18, 19, working for them. My first year, I got Rookie of the Year for sales. I was outselling everyone in the entire company, and it was my first year. So
Wow.
I was good at it. I was really good at it. And my paychecks reflected that.
Wow.
But that's all it was. It was a
Wow.
paycheck.
You know, it's funny you mentioned that because, and you explained it well too, because I had a challenge of explaining it properly, you know, because you always, when you're explaining something, you're always thinking, okay, how do I say this so that they hear what they want to hear?
Yeah.
And what is running through their head? You and I have a very common story in a sense where I was also practicing. I still do, but I own my own insurance practice
Mm-hmm.
um, in 2008. And like you explain it properly when you say you're so focused and you're so, I mean, serving people has always been a passion of mine.
Yeah.
So I loved my clients, but it's just the whole system of the way how the system where I worked was just creating a unhappiness inside of me and just really wanting more. And it's super simple, but yet complicated to explain to someone when they ask you, why did you drop, like all of a sudden, just left your insurance practice?
Yeah.
You know, because it's not like I just thought of it and then dropped it the next day, right? It's been like a lot of talk. I make pretty good money here. I love my freedom, but do I really have the freedom if I'm a captive
Yeah.
insurance person? So anyways, go, you know, let's hear the rest of your story and where, you know, where that took you and what was it in the insurance or even your prior career that really made you think, other than just crying on the way home, that you really wanted something so much more fulfilling?
The biggest thing for me, and nothing against the insurance industry on any level, but the biggest thing for me is I like genuinely care about people.
Mm-hmm.
And, there's rules and, certain things are covered in the claims department, certain things aren't covered. And
Yes.
it would kill me when I would sign a client up
Mm-hmm.
and they would give me money, and in exchange I would give them the promise that we would be there in the event of a claim, a loss. And it's such a hard time in anyone's life, no matter whether it's on your homeowner's insurance, your car insurance, you get in an accident, and then for this reason or that reason something's not covered. It would destroy me every single time, because that's just such, I just felt like I was failing them. Even though there's the rules and the regulations, it just wasn't something for me that I
Mm-hmm.
could continue to pursue.
It's it's legal, but it wasn't morally in line
Yeah.
with your own soul, you
Yeah.
know, and I hear you from that perspective because I was the same way.
Okay.
um there's limitations,
Yeah.
you
And
know, and
on out, and like you said, it is legal, it's right, like it's an entire industry that's doing it. It's just not, for obviously people like us.
yeah, it's not as fulfilling
Yeah.
when you have to be a messenger of a bad news.
Yeah.
um it's very hard on people, and it's tasking on you. It drains you when your hands are tied, because you can only do so much, you know, and then you're happy taking their money, but yet there are certain limitations. It really doesn't align, does it?
No, it's really
It's
hard. And especially like, certain people can only afford certain coverage, and then the accident happens and then they're not covered because they couldn't afford it. And it's just this cycle that it is what it is. And it's
Yeah.
hard for me to watch.
Yeah, no, I hear you. So tell us about motherhood. Tell us about what you're doing now, about your salon, all that
Um,
good stuff.
yeah, so I have two kids. My son is 5. He's going to be starting kindergarten in the fall, which is like so exciting and so scary at the same time. And then I have my daughter's 4, and I've I'm pretty busy in the summer, but outside of the summer, I'd spend as much time as I can with them. So aside from my salon, I run
Mm,
another company here. It's a tourist business.
mhm.
Um, my husband and I and a partner, we have a zip line here locally, just outside of Glacier National Park.
Beautiful.
And my husband actually got into it, and him and the partner, they had built the structure. They built the tower that's on the property, the entire course. And then from there, they didn't have a website. They didn't have booking software. They didn't have anything on the back end side to actually open the business. So I stepped in and I got all that off the ground and running. And this is our 4th summer open. So that keeps me pretty busy in the summer, which is why all my time is tight. But with that being said, I also, like, for example, I knew when training was going to happen and all that. So I had planned a camping trip with my kids this past weekend, and it was so much fun. I just kept telling, because, you know, they miss me and all that when I'm this crazy, crazy busy, but it's only for about 2-3 months out of the entire year.
Mhm.
And so I just, every day I would remind them, like, I'm really busy and I love you. And in 2 weeks, we're going to go on this fun camping trip. My phone's going to be away and we're just going to be in the wilderness with the camper and go kayaking. So I think that really helps them cope with me being away so much in that time. Just constantly reminding them, like, I'm here for you. I'll see you every night at bedtime. I'll see you in the morning. And then in, like, you know, we would do a countdown to the camping trip. And then the whole camping trip was just so much fun. I just had a blast. They were the cutest things ever. They're like kayaking by themselves. I was shocked.
That's awesome. So you're a busy mom. You have a couple of businesses, husband. I know our husbands are like kids, right?
Oh, yes. Yes, they
They
are.
they like if you fall apart, our husband falls apart. it's it's good to be needed.
Yeah.
But what is your favorite part in your business, like your salon? Because I know that that is such a fulfilling journey for you.
Yeah. My favorite part, honestly, is just my clients. I love spending time with them and being with them. Like, when I come to my salon and get my clients in, I don't really feel like I'm working. Um,
Mm,
I'll be a little bit like drained at the end of the day just from like the little details, because I'm doing the manicures and pedicures. But I love my
mhm.
clients. They're all amazing. They're all supportive of me. They were all so happy when I left the salon I was in for 6 years and opened my own place. That's really my favorite part, just being with them, getting to talk with them, hear what's going on in their life. Yeah, you get to know clients really well. Most of them I've seen about every 2 weeks for like the 6 to 8 years.
Wow.
So it's awesome.
Why a salon? Why is that the one that you picked of all the industries to transition to?
Well, so back when I was like 14, 15, I did want to go into the beauty industry.
Hmm.
But back then, even at a young age, my mentality was, well, I can't go to school for a year. I have to work. I have to work. So I didn't do it. That's when I did retail and then got into the insurance stuff. And then when I quit the insurance world, um, I couldn't find a job doing something that I felt passionate about. And so I was kind of to a point where I hadn't worked for a couple months, and I was
Hmm.
like, I got to do something. So I applied to so many random places, and I actually got hired on at Target. And I honestly loved it. I had so much fun. I was just a cashier there for a couple weeks. Um, And my managers were great, but a couple weeks into it, I thought to myself, what am I doing? Like, this is fun, but I'm a career person and this is not my career. So that I just decided, I'm like, I'm going to go to nail school. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to do what I need to do. And I went just to see if I liked it, and I loved it. And then 8 years later, I'm still doing it.
That's so cool. Did you have to hide your super experienced resume from Target when you applied? So you don't get told you're overqualified for this job?
I think I did, but not in a conscious way. Just me at that age, being so young, being super insecure. I mean, I had just wrote on there that I worked in insurance on my resume. I didn't have any details, any accomplishments, any of that stuff. So most of my life I've downplayed my work for sure. So it wasn't on a conscious level, but yeah.
That's so cool. That's so cool. From making a ton of money in insurance and going to work for Target as a cashier. Usually people do it the other way around.
Yeah.
But that tells you, and that's so cool how you discovered that though at a young age.
Yeah.
For me, I was always about the power, the money, the title, the accolades when I was that age, you know, and, you know, you run this race that never ends.
Yeah.
And by the time you get somewhere, you feel like it's like, where's the finish line? And I'm empty and I've accomplished all these things, but I'm still not happy. What is going on inside, or what am I supposed to do? You start asking all these questions, and it's pretty impressive how you discovered all that at a very young age. Because for me, I had to go through all and accomplish what I wanted. And, you know, we're always accomplishing stuff. We're always growing. It's never going to end. But for me, I was looking for the end, right? I was looking for that finish line, but I was not embracing the fact that I will always be growing. And I probably wasn't mature enough to really understand life as much as I do now. Yeah. It's amazing how fast you matured. So tell us through that process and share to our amazing listeners, how hard was that? And what advice can you give younger moms, you know, like yourself, and even moms in general that are entrepreneurs or are thinking about it, but they're scared to? We go through this pocket of being scared, right? So for those moms that are in that pocket as we speak, that are just, oh, you know, I'm so scared, I don't know what's on the other side. What advice can you give them if they were listening to you?
For me personally, I would say the biggest thing is if you want to do something but you're unsure of it, I would say work on yourself first. Work on your confidence, work on your self-love, because I feel like there's so many different motivations in life, but if you're doing it just for the power or the money, it's not going to fulfill you no matter what. So I would say make sure that your heart is in line with what you want to do, and then once you have that confidence, I kind of did it backwards, which is why it's a lot of my life has been a pretty rough journey, but now that I have that confidence and the proper mindset and the positivity, it makes everything in business so much easier. It's less complicated. It's less of a challenge. You know, there's always challenges that are going to come up, but I'm able to handle it so much better now that I'm kind of in line with who I know that I am and who I want to be, versus me trying to be like someone else and not achieving that. That's what I would say. I would say definitely like check in with yourself, and if you need to do some self-growth, do it, and then take off, and your business will just fall into place with the hard work and the positivity and the heart that you can put into it.
And where would you recommend someone start start building their confidence, start maybe getting that proper mindset, because it's not going to happen overnight, right? Like,
No.
what did you personally have to do to get where you are with your confidence level and your proper mindset?
I personally hired a trainer, actually. And he not only works on the fitness side of things, but he works on the mindset too. And so that's really helped me personally. I know not everyone can do, if you can do something like that, great. But if you can't do something like that, I mean, even listening to podcasts, motivational speakers, just getting out there and researching someone that maybe you look up to, or want to follow, and they can instill that positivity through their words, their videos, their interviews. Everyone like learns differently. So I would say, just if you really want to do it, and you don't have that resource maybe in town like I do, with having an amazing trainer who does work on that stuff, seek it out online somehow. There's so many different social media platforms, these podcasts. I think the TED Talks are really good motivational things to listen to. So I would say, like, just seek it out. And even seeking it out on your own will kind of show the motivation within yourself to make that change.
Yeah. No, I always said this, that you will only learn by doing.
Yes.
You will not get your answers by staying still. And if you stay in that pocket and trying to wait for that answer to come, it will never come. So I always say, just get moving. If you feel like it's pulling you in that direction, it's probably the right direction. Yeah. If you even think about it and confused about it, it's probably time to make a move, right? But sometimes we overanalyze things and we try to pray about it and hope for an answer to show up. But it really is, the answers are within your movements. And if you move towards that direction, the answers will just start, unraveling. Mm-hmm. Do you feel that the more confidence you have and the more importance you put in yourself and self-worth, that you feel like you become unstoppable and you feel like you're ready to take on the world?
Absolutely. Yeah. Because we all have like a lot of negative self-talk that we do. And so, before working on myself, there was a lot of things I wouldn't do, because in my head, I'm like, I can't do that. I suck. Why would I be good at that? Like, nobody cares about me.
Right.
That's like the negative self-talk that goes on in a lot of people's heads. Some people think it's just their own head, but I would say most people struggle with that. And so the more I learned to shut that down, and build that confidence, it's like, yeah, I can do this. I am a strong, confident woman. I can run my own business, and I can just take action on all these different things that I need or want to do and just make it happen. So yeah, definitely.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, Dan, actually, my trainer, he preaches on how action is power. And I totally believe that. Because he says, you can have all the knowledge in the world. We have the internet at our fingertips, but it doesn't matter unless you're actually taking action. And it's totally true.
Yeah.
You can want all the things in the world, unless you're seeking it and going after it, it's not going to happen.
It's funny you mentioned Dan. I'm going to have Dan tomorrow on the same time, 8:00. He's Perfect. He's going to be my season 2 finale, because although this is a mother-centric podcast, which means that all of my guests, except the last episode of every season, is a man in the last episode, and then everybody else is a mom, obviously women. Yeah. But I love, because I did that for my season 1, which is coming up soon, because we have 3 more episodes to go. So I'm excited for the man of impact to be on the first one, to really spice it up a little bit. Yeah. And here he's a little over 50 years old, to hear what how their mother and the women in their lives impacted them, and would they credit them to their success now and things of that nature. Because as a mom, I think that validation is huge for us,
Yeah.
to know that we are raising our children properly, because sometimes, so we have all these negative self-talk when it comes to our business and our life. But we also have these, when you become a mom, there's another layer,
Yeah.
right? The negative self-talk of, am I enough, mom? Am I training them enough to be good human beings? Am I doing the right things? So having, I think, a grown man to talk about their mother and how they were raised, good or bad, and how they were impacted, good or bad, by the things that their mother did, or the women, the wife and the daughter. I mean, this guy has a daughter too. So
Yeah.
it just makes me look so forward to what my kids would tell people about me.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm really excited about that episode 13. Can you share about, because our kids teach us a lot of lessons too. Can you give us or share with us stories about your kids and how they're making you a better human and what they're teaching you as a mom?
Yeah. My kids are pretty good at keeping me in check. And I mean, I could just blame that on the fact that maybe I keep them in check too. So we kind of have this like mutual, let's keep everyone in line type relationship. But, you know, if they're doing something they're not supposed to, I'll usually stop them. We'll talk to them about it, and, you know, we'll hopefully learn a lesson and move on and, you know, keep making the corrections because they're kids. But my son will do that to me sometimes too. If I'm getting a little short with him, a little cranky, he'll just come to me and like put his hands on my shoulders and be like, Mom, you're kind of being mean right now.
Wow.
I'm like, oh, baby, you're right. I am sorry. I shouldn't act like that. Like, you know, mommy's in timeout or whatever the situation is. And then I like thank him for, you know, just telling me if I like hurt his feelings or just whatever. And if it's something where I did hurt his feelings, you know, he is still 5. So sometimes I explain to it, like sometimes he'll say, you're hurting my feelings, when I'm like, you know, disciplining him. And then I explain to him, I'm not trying to hurt your feelings, but I'm trying to teach you the right thing to do. So we do have like a lot of conversations that go back and forth, and he just cracks me up. He's such a little lover. He's just like, oh my gosh, he's just the sweetest thing ever. And then my daughter, she teaches me a lot of patience. Yeah, when she turned 4, I felt like she turned 16. So she's been really challenging. She's also super sweet too, but she throws the craziest fits. And sometimes I'll just like look at her and I'm like, what are you doing? And then she'll kind of look at me and stop. And I'm like, Sissy, we call her Sissy. I'm like, seriously. And then even my son sometimes will be like, Haley, he goes, Haley, you're being a little ridiculous right now. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
Kids are so funny. The cool thing about them is they never lie, right?
Yeah, they're so honest.
They're so raw, because they're innocent. They're not tainted yet. And I think as moms, it's really important to hear their perspective. I'm learning that I was raised in an environment where I was always, you know, like I was never heard, and I hated that.
Yeah.
It was always like what my mom or my parents said was always the right thing, even though I'm too smart for my own good, even though sometimes I know they're wrong, you know, but like you get shut down and you don't get to talk back.
Yeah.
I think there's a good balance of, there's a specific limitation of talking back, but I think it's not necessarily, for me, in my opinion, it's not necessarily talking back, but it's having a conversation. Like, can we just have a real conversation, right?
Yeah.
With your kids? And I think it's important to be heard. And, there's a lot of suicide going on right now with, teenagers and whatnot. And I think it's so important because they're only going to tell us what we want to hear, especially when we shut them down all the time. But when we allow them to be heard and we just kind of like really dig deep into their minds, and allow them a free zone to share everything, I think it's going to make a difference in the world.
Yeah, I agree. And just instilling that love instead of the hatred that's out there a lot. I allow my son to tell me when he's mad at me, but then we talk about it. I'll tell him, it's okay to be mad at me right now, but it's not okay to be mean to me when you're mad. Same with his sister. We talk about it. Like, I allow them to have their feelings and their emotions, but talk it out, where you can feel that way. You can be frustrated right now. I totally get it. I get frustrated too. But again, what you're not allowed to do is hit your sister because you're frustrated, or push her down, things like that. So we do just talk it out. And I just let them know, like, they're okay. It's okay to feel all these feelings and emotions. And I feel like we do have such a society where everything is suppressed, and a lot of people are like, I'm fine.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, are you really fine? Because fine is typically a defense mechanism. And I've seen that so much. And even I think the big reason I'm like that with my kids is because I've spent most of my life being extremely depressed, really high anxiety. I've even been there with the attempted suicide a couple times, and I just want them to know that they're loved and they can feel anything that they do feel. It's just you need to learn to deal with it in the proper way. So right now it's don't hit your sister. But hopefully later in life when they're teenagers, they'll be able to still feel everything, but have the better coping mechanisms than a lot of people out there, including.
Then I'm fine. Like, it's so vague. I'm fine is such a vague answer.
Yeah.
It's a lazy type of answer too, if you ask me. Is your mom still around, and are you close to her?
She is around, and we're not as close as I'd like to be now.
What?
She was really controlling my whole life. I moved out of my parents' house at 16, right before I turned 17. And a lot of it was just because her and I didn't get along. And it was time for me to kind of be on my own. She has a lot of the depression and anxiety and stuff too. And I knew at a young age that even though I was dealing with that, but that's not the life I wanted to lead. And I just felt like I needed to get away.
When you say get away, does she live in another state?
She does. So I grew up in California, and that's where she lives. When I got away, I just moved out of the house. And then I would say for a while that I was kind of running a little bit, traveling a lot. I moved up to Alaska at one point and then moved here to Montana. Yeah.
So what brought you to Montana?
So I was actually married before, and I moved up to Alaska to be with him. And he was in the military. And he got transferred to Great Falls. And so that's how I ended up here in Montana. But he was born and raised in the town that I live in now. So that's how I ended up in Kalispell, Montana.
Wow. Funny how life takes you in this different, different chapters of your life.
Yes. Yeah.
And
so crazy.
So what is the one reason that you learned from your mother?
What is
one lesson you learned from your mother?
I think just watching her through her struggles, it's always made me, it honestly has made me the driven, motivated person that I am, because
Mm,
even at a young age, um, I hate to say this, I feel bad saying it, but I didn't want, so she has like financial problems, you know, her own insecurities, a lot of things that a lot of people deal with. And I
mhm,
just, at a young age, didn't want to live that way.
mhm.
Um, so I did the opposite, where I didn't follow in the footsteps, but I just made sure to build my own life and create my own life, so that I could be successful, in whatever I wanted to do and not allow other things to hold me back. So,
That's awesome.
yeah.
Wow, 16. That is young to get out of the house.
Yeah.
And it's amazing what you've done. How did you end up in, well, first, before I ask you that question, because you now have a daughter.
Yes.
And I know that sometimes our fear is that we raise our kids the same way our mother raised us, right?
Yeah.
Are you, with you having a lot of challenges with her now at 4, are you somewhat scared that when she turns the age that you turn, when you had a lot of, challenges with your mom, is that something that's always in the back of your mind and, have a little fear about that?
I definitely don't have a fear about it, because I mean, I've made it a point to, I'm a bit of a research freak. I don't read like a ton of books or anything like that, but I read like a lot of articles. So when I was first pregnant with my son, I was every day reading like how to parenting. And I didn't like follow one specific thing
Mm-hmm.
anyway. I picked bits and pieces that I was like, oh, that makes sense. That will help create a healthy individual and help push them to be their own person. Um, so I spent a lot of time in both of the pregnancies kind of researching and learning, like, how can I be a good mom? How can I help help them mature into hopefully good citizens, loving, caring people. Um, so no, I don't really fear that all parents or have the same problems with my daughter, because I'm definitely past that.
Yep.
So
Awesome.
yeah,
That's wonderful. And I think that the fact that you are working on yourself, kids absorb everything we do. They suck it all in.
mm-hmm.
And when you are taking care of yourself, you are also um, parenting as an example
Yeah,
without even directly affecting them because they see all that, right?
yes,
And they only take, it's very impactful for them what you do instead of what you tell them. The
yeah,
doing is definitely what they suck in. They don't, nobody wants to be told what to do, including children. And so when you just do it and show them the right way of doing it and be an example to them, I think you'll be fine, right?
yeah,
You'll be good.
yeah.
So, how did you end up in the insurance? So, you left at 16. How did you end up in the insurance industry?
So when I moved out at 16, I had a couple different jobs. I worked in retail. I worked at a bagel shop. And I actually tutored college students in math.
Well,
um, it all of those kind of dissolved into just working full time in the retail, and then from there, I saw a job posting just for an office job, and it happened to
mm,
be in an insurance office. So I put in an application, did the interview, and they hired me. And that's kind of what started it all. And for a while, I did my Monday through Friday 8 to 5 thing at the insurance place, and then I'd work retail from 5:30 to close. And then I just do that every single day. And eventually I felt like I was stable enough in my insurance job to where I just completely quit the retail stuff. So that's how I got into that. I started that when I was 17 and then got my my license to actually sell instead of just doing the office work at 18. And then that's when I went to the Eastwood insurance office and became a broker and started selling. And that's when I kind of dominated the market temporarily down in California.
That's so cool. That's awesome.
It was.
It's amazing at a young age how much hustle you did, you know? You're definitely a mother hustler for sure. I was the same way. When I came to America, I worked for Walmart.
Okay.
It was the fastest job I could ever, and I was in California too, were you in Southern California?
No, I grew up in Northern California.
Okay. And I don't know why, what's with banking industry, but I've always wanted to work in a bank. I thought maybe when I was a younger person, I thought maybe it looks pretty nice and grand to be, counting cash and being behind that counter and be the teller, nice clothes, things of that nature. I think it's the prestige of it that really attracted me to the banking industry. And then I also did that. I worked for Walmart from 3 to midnight, and I was part-time at the local bank for 4 hours every day, 10 to 2. And then I walked to Walmart because we didn't have a car or anything at that time, or sometimes I'll take the bus. But I worked 2 jobs for a little bit and had no life. At a young age with no life, it's pretty tough,
Yeah.
and no friends because I'm new to the country. But I so get that part where you're working for the insurance office and having another job too in retail.
Yeah. It was a lot of work.
That's awesome. So second to the last question, if you're, with technologically advanced worlds that we live in, our kids are probably going to listen to this podcast. If your kids were listening, what would you tell them? What message do you want them to hear?
I would just want them to know that while you need to be a hard worker, you also need to have self-care too. I think that's huge. I think, sorry.
It's okay.
You told me this would happen and I didn't think it would, and it's funny that it's right at the end. I just hope that they just learn from all the hard work that I've put in and the self-care that I've done, and that they're just good humans.
It's all good. We always want to just make them good humans or show them how to be a good human, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to show them to have a big heart and be gracious towards other people and, non-judgmental. Everyone has a story.
Mm-hmm.
So,
it's true.
yeah.
Well, thanks for sharing that. That's awesome. What is your definition of a mother hustler when you hear that word? What comes to mind?
I would say a badass mother that is a career-driven woman also.
Awesome. Mother first, then career second, right?
Yeah, but dominating both at the same time.
It's so true. I always say number 1 is mother, number 1.1 is hustle. They're not even number 2. They're almost the same, but not quite.
And mom is a full-time job in itself.
Oh my gosh, are you telling me? It's like a business in itself.
It is. It really is.
You have to run a household. You have to, have conflict resolution like you just shared about your both kids. So, well,
Yeah.
I just want to say, you're doing a really great job in the way that you are parenting your kids, and I commend you for rising above as early as possible into knowing what your soul really was hungry for instead of wanting the things and the income and all that. And yes, we all need it, right? But
Yeah.
I really was so impressed by the fact that you had discovered that early on versus, you know, a lot of us have to go through the hard stuff in life. And one day we get awakened by a situation, which in my case, it was a situation that makes you question what really truly matters in life. And I commend you for getting there sooner rather than later. And I think it's an amazing accomplishment in of it itself. I commend you for taking really great care of yourself and doing what you want and taking action. And the number one thing I always say, you can't take care of others unless you take care of yourself and you're properly, you know, fit in every aspect of your life, spiritually, mentally, physically, emotionally, and financially. Unless you do all that for yourself, you have no right to help others.
Yeah.
So commend you for just touching on those through this podcast and sharing your story to the world. I can't wait to publish it. And I appreciate Dan for introducing you to me.
Yeah.
People always show up when you're ready, right? And you're ready, the right people will show up. So thank you so much for spending some time with me today.
Yeah. Thank
And
you.
I look forward. Yeah, I look forward to, you know, growing our relationship as, you know, our friendship grows from a distance through social media. And I always have this very unique connection with every single one of my guests because a piece of them gets implanted in me and I become a better person just listening to their story.
I feel that way too. I love hearing other people's stories and their details and how they're parenting or running their business. Because yeah, I do pick and choose pieces that help me too.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Have a great day.